best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott, your host, and a man who received a very suspicious package in the mail this week. But turns out it was just from a music store. Still, every package from a music store can be considered suspicious and sketchy just because of its point of origin, as I understand from the FBI. And with me in the booth is Intertalk's favorite engineer when Paul and Florentino and pretty much anybody else isn't available, Hans Gruber. How's it going, Hans? How's it going on there?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. So they're giving you the flight controls, and you're piloting the show now. Can you feel the power? Does it feel good?
Yeah, it feels good.
It feels good, man. Nice. Awesome. Well, Hans going to be checking in with us throughout the show. We're going to have a good show today. If you want to reach me, so I run a PR and marketing firm called Robertson Communications, which I call Robertson Com. And if you want to reach me, you can send an email to scott@robertsoncom.com. You can find us on the website at robertsoncom.com. And also social media. You can find us at my hashtag or my Twitter handle is at RobertsonCom. And then on Facebook, of course, at facebook.com/RobertsonCom. All of that is 2 M's like communications. So that's all about me if you want to reach out. Sometimes I get emails from folks and they have questions about things that I'm saying, or, they want to just, make their opinion known. And I love that. That's great. So reach out. This is episode 102 of the Monster Program, and I call it AES Holes. And really, it's going to be a little recap from AES. I was there last week in lovely New York City, and it was a lot of fun. Trade shows like AES give exhibitors and attendees the chance to meet, the chance to talk, do a little business. I'm going to run down kind of who got it right, who didn't at this year's AES show from New York, who had some noticeable holes in their marketing strategy and who didn't, things that you can maybe able to use to correct in your own trade show marketing. And, of course, we're going to talk about who's fresh crop of who's winning and losing this week in the wild and woolly world of marketing and communications. So I'm glad that you're here. We're going to have fun today. And, just for being here, I'm going to give you a little piece of candy just for stopping by. Just for stopping by the show. Here's a little piece of virtual candy for you. So let's talk about AES. So it was a big show, it was a lot of fun. It was in New York this year. They kind of alternate between New York and Los Angeles, it seems, these days. And this one was in New York. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go out there and attend on behalf of one of my clients, and also just go see some friends. So it was kind of fun. This AES show, the Audio Engineering Society show, was its 70th anniversary year. So they kind of had a milestone celebration. It's kind of cool. And, even though the one thing I didn't understand is that the communication was it's the 70th anniversary year of the society, but it's the 145th International Convention. And so you're like, I don't know. Somebody's going to have to do that math for me and help me figure that out. There must be, maybe there's more conventions than there are years is a good way probably to think of it. And they have events worldwide. So anyway. But the show did pretty well this year. They had three days of kind of gear and services in the exhibition, and they had about 300 brands represented, a few new faces as well. They had folks like Dell Computers, which you don't always think of, but Dell does have computers in a lot of recording studios out there. Folks like Meyer Sound were there, Roland, of course, some interesting folks like Western Electric was there. That was kind of interesting. And then also there was one interesting thing they did with the show was they co-located the NAB, the National Association for Broadcasters, New York show, and really kind of made it to where you could go through both shows, which was kind of interesting to kind of have the co-location of the two shows going on. I thought it was pretty cool. And because I go to the NAB show sometimes in Las Vegas, and a lot of that stuff is, not really my clients in the, music products industry necessarily, but a lot of things in the broadcasting industry, and there's a lot of crossover as well. I didn't go to a lot of the technical, presentations and those kind of things. I'm not an audio engineer. It certainly would make all those kind of people really excited. But I, went there to kind of see what was going on with the, with the exhibitors were there, and really that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. The show had it, in addition to drawing its cast of exhibitors, I think they said 300 brands. They had quite a few, celebs and kind of people of note around the show this year. They had Stevie Wonder. You could see him walking around the show, which if you go to the NAMM show a lot, you see Stevie pretty much every year walking around somewhere. They had Danny Korchmar, renowned bassist Will Lee. They had a lot of famous producers like Bob Ludwig was there, and a couple of folks like that, and they also had John Mayer. He was walking around that place. That was kind of interesting. From kind of the he's a very famous producer and very famous in the land of audio engineering. So, also Thomas Dolby, by the way. Thomas Dolby was there, and I believe some friends of mine said that he ended his presentation by doing a little bit of a custom rendition of "She Blinded Me with Science," which should be like you should. And if you're going to see Thomas Dolby do a keynote, he's got to end with that song. That was awesome. My client BandLab was there, and BandLab acquired Cakewalk from Gibson earlier this year, and BandLab was there talking about Cakewalk. Cakewalk by BandLab, and the new edition of it. And it was amazing to me. So I got a chance to kind of hang around that booth and spend a little bit of time there and meet with some of the press that were talking about that. And it amazed me that, I kind of felt like it was common knowledge that Cakewalk was back and kind of resurrected by BandLab, but it really, it was really kind of news to a lot of people. Ran into a lot of audio engineers, and they were like, "Oh, I heard Gibson killed that," it's like, probably would have been a good idea in the booth if we would have just especially with Halloween coming up, to have the Cakewalk rising out of a coffin, that kind of thing, rising from the dead kind of imagery would have been cool. But it was amazing, like I said, to me, that the fact that people didn't know that BandLab owned Cakewalk, and they certainly didn't know that Cakewalk was there. It had a bunch of new features. And we were just there to kind of, create awareness about that and just show people that, hey, it's cool and it's free. And, and people just kind of give you that look like, what do you mean it's free? And it's like, yeah, it's free, that kind of thing. So anyway, by the way, just as a quick plug for my client, you can go check it out. Go to bandlab.com, and you can download Cakewalk for free as well, or just get in BandLab proper, which has 4.5 million active users these days. So really interesting, cool client, always making news inside of interesting ways in the industry. I want to talk about, at every trade show that I go to as a marketing person, I'm always a little bit puzzled walking around to some of the booths. And some of the booths that you go into, it's very clear what people are doing. Hey, we're selling microphones. We have the best microphones. We have this, and we have our microphones out on display. But there are some booths there that, have so much kind of marketing language and things like, I saw things like audio engineering solutions, which is a fairly meaningless statement, by the way. You might as well just say, we got audio crap somewhere, and this is really, really important, because people create things that sound like marketing language, but I'm a fan of just telling people what you do. Because if you take it from the attendee's perspective, you're walking through, maybe you're seeing some brands that you don't know, maybe you're seeing some products from some brands that you don't know. As clear as you can make it is really, really good, really, really good. And it always kind of puzzles me when I walk into a booth, and then I don't know what they do, and then I have to ask somebody what they do, and then sometimes they can't even articulate what they do, and it's like, you're here at a trade show, knowing what it is that you're going to say to people who ask what it is that you do, that's pretty important. That's a pretty important thing to be able to do that. Normally, I was planning on going around and doing some interviews for this show around AES, but I actually forgot my little USB microphone, and the audio would have been terrible without that thing in it. But I like to ask people when I go around to, if you've heard some of my trade show shows before, I go around and I ask people about their brand. How's it going? How'd you come up with it? What does it mean? What does it mean to me? What emotion have you based this thing on? What is it you're trying to say? How are you different? All kinds of things that kind of come up in the brand conversation. But I will say that on your more technical trade shows, the more technical your trade shows get, I think the easier it is to put a bunch of kind of bullet points with a lot of specifications up, and that is great. But it shouldn't be done at the expense of having a message that you can clearly define what it is that you do and why you're here. And, saying things like pro engineering solutions, that don't do it. That isn't a sentence that means anything. Okay. And people punt to that a lot. I should have counted the number of times I saw things like lame, trite things like solutions written all over the place. By the way, if you listen to this program, don't ever use solutions. It was a word that people used. It's a lazy word because you can always say something. It's like a catch-all. It's like we're going to sweep everything up into this little net and we're going to call it solutions because we are too lazy to create descriptive language that's going to be meaningful to you, and we're just going to kind of punt to this, right? Or it means that we don't really know what you want, and we probably don't care that much about it, and so we're just going to offer solutions. We don't know. We hope you have problems. When I see the word solutions, I do think of that sentence. I think, well, I'm just praying that you have a problem that we could solve. Well, what is that? What is that problem? Show me that you know it. Show me that that's my pet peeve about that word. But there's a lot of vagary in stuff. And again, plenty of booths that just kind of put up a lot of numbers and specifications and stuff. And that's important. Believe me, you need numbers and specifications at a certain point in the sales process. You don't need them when you're trying to be clear. You need to make sure that when you're designing a booth, when you're the marketing person and you're designing a booth, you need to make sure that you've designed it in such a way that you're someone completely outside the industry could come up and within a few seconds they would know what it is that you do. It may not be for them. It may not be the right thing. It may not be a thing, but everyone should be able to decipher what it is that you do. And if your booth is so clever and everything that you can't very clearly understand what it is you do, people are going to keep walking right on by you, in a trade show type of environment. Don't forget, you're competing for attention with, 300 other brands. So you have to be better than they are. You have to be better than they are. And when I say better, what I mean is clearer. You have to be very clear about what it is that you're going to do. I walked into a couple of booths, and I just have to say it, and some of the people were kind of downright rude, and that is also a poor strategy. By the way, you're at a trade show, you're trying to build face-to-face relationships with people. You don't know who I am, and by the way, just because my badge says something, I know people in the press, for example, that don't wear press badges at trade shows, that wear a company badge, that wear something else, that and it's like, so just on the chance that sometimes people kind of look at your badge and they're like, and they make an instant decision that, oh well, this person is not worth my time, kind of thing. But here's what I'll say: you pay a bunch of money to put yourself out in front of a selection of attendees, right? Every touch point counts, right? And you don't know who knows who. You don't know who knows who in the industry. You don't know this kind of thing. So being rude to somebody, in your trade show booth is just bad business. It's just a bad idea. You can always be polite. We had lots of people that came up to the Band Lab booth and they weren't necessarily fit for it or whatever, but they still, potentially need to have good thoughts about the brand. I think not enough people in marketing really understand that it's a relationship business and sort of every relationship counts. The every relationship counts part of it, that's really important. That's really important. And I know it sounds basic and people are like, oh, we train our staff and train. Well, you didn't train them well enough is what from my personal experience, there's some people that are just downright rude. They kind of give you that look like, oh man, I'm really waiting for this kind of buyer or this kind of person. And if you're not them, then you can just, take a hike, man. That's not cool. You don't know who I am and you don't know who I know. So don't do that. I wouldn't advise that. And there are things in trade shows that people do, and I still don't quite get it. For example, it seems like the classic punt move in a trade show is we're going to put out a big bowl of candy. And, you come up, you want a Tootsie Roll, and now I can kind of pitch you. I mean, this is the same tactic that's used by people who abduct small children. This should not be a marketing tactic that you use, at your trade show booth, right? It's and people say, "Oh, Scott, that's harsh." People always love a good piece of candy. Do better. Do better is what I say. If all you got is a bowl of candy, go back to the drawing board. Figure out, do like a little bit of thinking. The thinking is what needs to be done here. The thinking about why are people coming to the booth? What is it that they need? What is going on here? Like, Reverb was there. And Reverb does a great job of handing out little kind of tchotchkes that they, like patch cables and T-shirts and that kind of thing. And if you have a good conversation with them at a trade show, they'll give you kind of a free thing that kind of reinforces the thing. They don't put out a candy bowl. They put out products that reinforce what their value proposition of the brand is, right? There's marketing thinking behind it. Just don't do that. Don't put out bowls of candy and try to lure small children into your booth. That's just not cool. That's not good marketing. And right now you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing in this thing. Talk to you.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody, it's Friday, and you are in the right place because you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. We're talking about trade shows today. We got Hans in the booth. Hans is an intern. Hans, you ever been to any trade shows in your lifetime? Oh, I can't hear you, buddy. You on the mic? We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I haven't been to one, but I've a lot of my classmates have been to NAMM in particular.
Nice. I've heard of that one. It's a good show.
We've been given like a lot of tips, like to carry around business cards, and you never know who you're standing next to. You might be next to a band, like a big band person, or a big musician, or a big engineer, or a big like mic seller, preamp seller. You never know. Darn
right. Yeah, you never know who you're going to meet at a trade show. That's it's so true. It's so true. Well, hopefully you'll be able to get out to one of these music industry trade shows one of these days with the Intertalk gang, huh?
Yep, sounds fun.
Sweet. Well, let's dig into it, folks. Let's talk about who's winning and losing. Let's start in the music industry with Gibson emerging from the darkness of bankruptcy, and they have announced all new leadership team led by James Curley, who's from Levi Strauss & Company. He's going to take over the company at the start of November, joined by 3 other senior executives. A new chief marketing officer, I believe, a chief financial officer, and a chief product officer. So they're going to kind of have this brand new leadership team that's going to try to fix what's wrong with Gibson and get it to where it's going to be a profitable company again. Everybody in the industry, we're definitely going to put them in winning because everybody in the industry wants to see Gibson succeed. We want to see this great brand continue and want to see what they have up their sleeve for the future and what they can do. I think it'll be very interesting to see a kind of quote unquote outsiders from outside the industry haven't had a great track record inside the music products industry. To be honest, there's a long list of folks that have come in from other large companies and tried to figure out this crazy little industry and done so sort of unsuccessfully because it is quirky. It's quirky and has some unique things about it that you kind of just have to live through and know. But anywho, we wish them all the success in the world. We want to see Gibson, emerge and be profitable and be a strong, supplier and exhibitor at some of these trade shows that we're talking about, for many years to come. So anyway, kudos to Gibson. We say winning. That's what I say. Just another shameless plug for my client, BandLab Technologies, made a little more news this week. They acquired the Guitar Magazine and Music Tech Magazine from Anthem Publishing in England. So that's kind of interesting that BandLab would do. BandLab also owns a share of Rolling Stone magazine as well. So Meng, the CEO of BandLab Technologies, certainly likes his magazines, right? And that's kind of it's kind of an exciting thing to be able to have as a branch of the company. Like I said, BandLab Technologies is a fascinating company because of the portfolio of brands that it represents and that it has, under the flag, and just a lot of really, really cool stuff. But anyway, we're going to put them in winning, not just because they're my client, but because that's kind of cool news. It's interesting. Twitter is definitely winning this week. Their Q3 earnings were they really smashed the experts' estimates on what they were doing. Revenue for the company totaled $758 million, which is almost a 30% year-over-year increase, which is awesome. Ad revenue totaled $650 million of that, and that was an increase of 30%. In the U.S., it was $423 million, and international was $335. Daily active users, or DAU, grew 9% year-over-year, which is kind of interesting. And the monthly active users of Twitter totaled 326 million, And that's a little bit of a slight drop from the $330 million from the same period last year and the $335 million in the previous quarter. But Twitter had a really fantastic quarter. And, they attributed some decrease or whatever because of the GDPR laws and things like that. And remember, we covered on this show that they had to take out about a couple of million profiles because they were in violation of terms of service, and they were hate speech and trying to influence people politically and all kinds of things. One of the most interesting things about Twitter is it is sort of the news channel of the President of the United States of America. It is basically kind of a stream of consciousness type feed, to the leader of the free world, And if somebody, like I said, if Pizza Hut burns the crust on his pizza, he's going to tweet about it in all caps. And that level of access is unprecedented in American history. There's never been a time where, you don't even get the straight feed from any executive at any corporation because it goes through a department of people like me who kind of, make sure they don't say anything stupid is a good way to say it. So, kind of the unsanitized, unvarnished feed from a chief executive is one thing, but having it from the President of the United States is unheard of and absolutely crazy. And by the way, if you don't follow Donald Trump on, on Twitter, you're really missing out. That is some really interesting stuff from a persuasion and a communication standpoint, and just fascinating. As I've said on the program many times, the rules kind of used to be that you didn't do that, but it'd be very easy for a chief executive of a company to go, well, following the president's example, I'm going to start, just sort of tweeting, what I have to say. And then, of course, like the room full of PR people is going to try to tackle him and that sort of thing. But anyway, it's kind of interesting. But I digress, but I do want to say that Twitter's doing really, really well. And their earnings were very, very strong. So we're going to put them in a very, very strong winning. Burger King, however, has decided to do something dumb. They have these new nightmare sandwiches that come on bright green buns. So Burger King likes to morph its food into fun colors in honor of Halloween. It did the black bun thing. It did a jet black slush drink called Frozen Fanta Scary Black Cherry. And now it has Nightmare King. The meat pile layers a quarter pound of beef under a crispy chicken fillet. So it's beef and chicken. Awesome. Bacon, cheese, mayo, and onions. And it's loaded onto a glazed sesame seed bun that is nuclear grain. So, no. I put this in this is where you use the Jurassic Park logic right here, right? Just because you can make a velociraptor and it's cute at the beginning. Oh, look at the velociraptor. Look, it's so cute. It's going to grow up. It's going to kill you. It's going to kill you, right? Just fast forward to the last chapter of the movie. That's your head in its mouth. So you know. And the same thing with kind of the nightmare green sandwiches. What are we taught from a young age about bread? Let me phrase the question a different way. Is green a positive color to have for bread? Just visually. It is not. Green is the color of mold. Mold is bad for bread. We don't eat moldy bread, right? You're taught that from a very, very young age. So choking down a burger on a bun that is green, that's unappetizing. That's not going to work. And I don't know. We have a fast food restaurant here in Southern California called In-N-Out Burger. The line for In-N-Out Burger is around the block. If you go during dinner time and you go to you sit in the drive-thru, you will be sitting there for 25 or 30 minutes behind other people trying to get the food, right? There's no green buns in In-N-Out Burger. There's no seasonal stuff. They haven't really changed their menu, in decades, if at all. It's really, really good. They're really, really focused. And, sometimes I think that Burger King and McDonald's and people like that, they need to take a lesson from just do what you do. And don't try to be so clever and cute and everything else. Just make a good burger. Just make a really good burger, And and be confident in that instead of these nasty creations that nobody's going to eat. And if you did eat, it's probably going to make you sick. And who knows what the hell they used to make this thing green, and if that is even healthy for you. That's all kinds of losing. I'm just going to say losing, losing, losing. There you go. I'm not eating a green bun, and nor should you. However, In-N-Out Burger, you should go there. You should go there because it just rocks. It's awesome. You know, you don't always have to be like, you know, coming up with like the seasonal campaign to be great. In-N-Out Burger is great by just being focused and by being great. Okay? Good lesson there. Important lesson. Well, also losing, they've decided to create a new Titanic. You know, the ship. And it's going to, reportedly, it's going to sail from Dubai in 2022. Plans are continuing to launch the new Titanic. It's called Titanic 2, and it's set to make its first maiden voyage coming up thanks to Australian billionaire Clive Palmer, who's fronting a group called Blue Star Line. And, of course, Blue Star Line is the company that, owned Titanic before, the tragedy. You saw it. You saw the movie, right? So it's going to have 2,400 passengers, 900 crew members, which is the exact number on board when the boat sank in 1912. And it's just the morbid curiosity. So here's what I'll say from a marketing perspective. Titanic is not a positive news event. It is a tragedy. More than 1,500 people died when Titanic hit an iceberg and sank. 1,500 people died. Okay? So this morbid fascination to recreate the voyage of the Titanic is sort of the wrong message to me. Because, if you really wanted to recreate it, it didn't end well for anybody that was on it, So I just, I struggle with stuff like this. These are the kind of things that when they come up in the conference room, you go, sure, we could. We can make a green bun hamburger. We can. We absolutely can. Should we? Should we? Should we create a Titanic 2 and try to follow the same route and try to put the same amount of people on board and try to, is your plan to recreate the shipwreck, the hitting of an iceberg and 1,500 people dying? Is that the plan? What is this? Is what I would continue to say. And do we live in a world where there are people that are saying, you know what, 1,500 people died. I got to get me some of that. I got to get on that thing, and I want to see. I hope this thing is just as unsafe as the first one. And man, I hope we light all the boilers, and and I can be a part of that. No, you're not going to be. It's a little bit dark and a little bit sick when you kind of think about it. So I'm going to put that firmly in losing. And this is the kind of thing. If you're my client and you come up and say, Scott, we're going to launch a new Titanic. In that first meeting, I say, that's really stupid. Let's not do that. That sounds really stupid. That sounds like we're going to get smoked on that. That doesn't sound really good. Let's do a ship. Let's do something different. Let's do something else. Let's not recreate the Titanic. Titanic's not a positive news event. We could probably watch the movie if you need a refresher course in all the death. But, it's not a positive thing. That's what I would say. Tim Cook is calling for GDPR-style privacy laws in the United States of America, and he's going to get it because Congress is working on it right now. So Apple is one of the greatest defenders of data privacy that there is out there, and I say Apple should be winning on this alone. Apple is one of the most powerful companies. It has access to all of your data. It could do a lot of creepy stuff with your data, and they are on the front lines trying to champion, your privacy. Nobody else in tech gives a flying fart whether you care, whether your privacy is protected or not. I will tell you that. This is the only company that cares. Google doesn't care. They will get as creepy as... I read a thing that they're letting Alexa... they're selling data to people who cough in their house, and they're going to sell the information to cough drop companies so they can send you coupons for cough drop companies when you cough. That's some creepy crap right there. I got to say, if you have a listening device, an open channel, and you think that they're not, digitizing and trying to monetize every bit of data that you feed them, then you don't understand technology. You need to understand that, hey, Alexa, this kind of thing. If you have an open mic in your house all the time, you've just bugged yourself and given your data, in the terms of service, to companies who have no good intentions about doing things with it. And Scott, Scott, well, if I was sick, maybe I would like cough drops. You know what? It's Google. It's none of your damn business if I'm sick or not, right? It's none of your business. And you know what? I have the mental capacity to go find cough drops on my own. I don't need someone to send me coupons for cough drops. I understand how to purchase those items. I actually do. When I'm at the store, I understand how those go into my cart, and then those can be a purchase thing. I don't really need Alexa to do that for me. But back to my original point, Apple is out there. Apple doesn't do any of that stuff, by the way. They lock down privacy. I have friends that work at Apple. They try to get their hands on data from other apps and things like this. And even inside of Apple, they can't even see it. They have walls and walls and walls, lined around this stuff. They are true defenders of privacy. And I say they should be commended for that, because there isn't a single other company in the world that gives a crap about it other than Apple. So Tim Cook is basically saying that the United States needs its own version of GDPR. I agree with that. That is coming, by the way. By the way, GDPR, since we did a whole show on it and everything, that's caused by marketing. That's caused by companies that say, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could hear people cough and then realize that they're sick and then send them coupons for cough drops? Stop it, creepy. No, that's not cool. That's not right. The concept of what's right and what's wrong. I mean, do you know that crap at all? I mean, sometimes these digital marketers, man, get some friggin' scruples. Seriously, get some character. It's ridiculous. But once again, huge kudos for Apple being able to, lead the fight to create strong privacy rules for how marketing is going to use this data. I may do an entire show about how to handle that in the new world. But spoiler alert, it's called Not Being Creepy. And you are tuned right now to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader on Music Biz Talk. Come on back. I'm going to give you some trade show tips of your very own, just like a bowl of candy. See ya.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on InterTalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, hanging out with Hans down the intern. Hans Gruber, the intern.
What's up? What's up?
Do you know who Hans Gruber is, Hans?
I have no idea. Too young.
You ever see Die Hard?
Yes. One of the new ones.
There you go. So Hans Gruber is the is Alan Rickman's portrayal, is the character Alan Rickman portrays in Die Hard. Hans Gruber. I don't know.
Very German sounding.
When I think Hans, I just think of Gruber. So I don't know. Hey, what did you think of the winning and losing? What stuck? Anything stick out at you as completely crazy or wild or anything?
I didn't know that. I forgot which company, but which food company, but somebody made green burgers. That's kind of weird. Yeah, that's weird.
Burger King, dude. Burger King. I mean, you just try to shake your head. I read stories like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, come on, just.
That's so wacky. I as you said, like I associate green with mold. So
with mold. I mean, could you eat a burger that is like a fried chicken patty, beef, and then a green bun? Could you down that thing, or do you just your mind's just like you're eating mold? Yeah. Mold. You know, is there any way to? Yeah,
I think you mentioned that they had black before. I associate that with burnt.
I know. It's just I don't know how you could do it. I don't know how you could eat a green bun like that. There's just too much. There's too much of a wave in your brain that's telling you not to eat that. For you to eat it.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, cool. You guys are tuned into episode 102 of the show, and this is we're talking about trade shows today. I just gave a little bit of a recap from the AES show in New York last week. And I'm going to give you, as I always do in the last segment, I'm going to give you a few tips to make your trade show marketing better. And this is in addition to don't put a bowl of candy out. So my first tip, and I kind of touched on this in the first segment, but this is really important. Message first. Before if you're in marketing and you go in the planning meeting and people are saying, well, we've got this much space, and here's how I see laying it out, and I want to put the guitars over here and the amps over here, and I put this kind of things. Stop them. Here's what you want to do. You want to say, before any of that, because people just rush to tactics, and if you give somebody a floor plan of a booth, they're going to start to figure out how they can build it. That's a huge mistake. Before you build anything, before you do any, mentally, physically, anything, before you build anything, think about your message. Go back to your message, your message document, whatever it is. My clients use a message map. You go back to your message and you say, what are we trying to say at this trade show? What message are we trying to put out there? And then you formulate, and once you decide what that is, you decide kind of what that is, and everybody kind of understands that. Then you start to design and say, well, if we're trying to show that we are the world's leading microphone producer, then we want to. We want to say that. We want to make sure it's very clear that we're talking about microphones. We want to put that, up front and center. We want to design the booth in a way that it showcases our product in a positive way. We want to design it so that people can come up and, what is it that we want to do? Do we want to give people a hands-on look at the products and that kind of thing? Well, then maybe we don't put them behind glass. Do we want them to kind of roll it around in their hand and kind of be able to, touch it and feel it and that sort of thing? Then all of those kind of decisions, come from the messaging. And from the booths that I see at trade shows, The messaging is like at the end of it, they're like, well, marketing, come slap some lipstick on this pig and just, see if you can throw a slogan in there. We got all of our specifications, put on the banners and everything, but see if you could throw a catchy line or a tagline or something like that, up on top of it. No. That is the wrong way to design an experience that people are going to come in and experience your brand, right? And I understand people that work in companies, you're saying, well, the booth designers already have the booth designed and then they don't let me kind of play at that level. Well, that's fine. I mean, but they should at least have the benefit of counsel. And the counsel is the way that we should do this is that we design this around our message first. Always. That way we can always come back and say, what is it that we're saying? We don't want to be one of those companies where we have to put a bowl of candy out and nobody knows what the hell we're doing here, right? Don't be one of those companies. The way to not be one of those companies is tip number 1, message first. Always, always, always. Messaging gets lost, people. People just get flying down the tactics road and then they come back to messaging later and it's always going to be a Band-Aid job after that. So don't allow yourself to do that. Tip number 2, simplify everything. Okay, if you have 10 words on your banner, can you do it in 3? If you have a lot of busy, complicated visuals and crazy colors going everywhere, how do we do it with less colors? How do we do it with less? How can we simplify? How can we imagine our booth in a chaotic environment of other booths all around us, and how can we be inviting? And how can we simplify to where we're inviting people in to get to know us and get to know our brand and that kind of thing? And that comes from simplification. Did you know that your brain burns calories? A lot of people don't know this. They don't know that your brain actually burns calories, right? So when you're thinking about stuff, you are kind of working out. You're burning calories. Now, we have a mechanism inside our brains that shuts off if we have to burn too many calories and think about things. Our brains like to pigeonhole things. We like to, simplify things. Simple. The reason that you want to simplify everything about your booth is you don't want to make people think too hard about it. Because if you make them think too hard, their brain's going, well, we're burning a lot of calories doing this, man. We could be, I don't know, doing something else. We could be, doing the scramble in the New York Times or something instead of this. And the brain will start to reject things where it has to work too hard to figure it out. Okay? And I've had some people that kind of debate me years over that. Read the neuroscience behind it. Okay? The neuroscience of understanding our brains always comes back to the fact that simple is always better because we are kind of simple folks at our core. We're looking for things, but we don't necessarily want to work too hard at it. That kind of thing. So again, simplify. I saw so many booths at AES where I didn't know what they were doing. They were completely far too complicated. They had multiple competing messages, multiple competing divisions of the company and this kind of thing. And that comes from different product managers saying, well, my stuff needs to be up there too, and my stuff needs to be up there too, and my stuff up there. And stop it. Screw your stuff. This is about the customer's stuff. This is about, sometimes we think too much about, our, especially, product managers and everything. They think too much about, well, is my stuff being represented? And they don't think about, is the customer being represented? Is what they are after, are we about that? And that kind of thing. Sometimes marketing folks inside organizations have to help people make that little flip, because it gets very easy to be territorial and create this. And you don't want to have one of those booths where you have so much going on that people are just like, oh my God, this thing is a nightmare. I gotta get out of here. You're making me, you're making my brain do the Jane Fonda workout. It's just, I'm sweating over here. I'm sweating because your crap is so complicated. Yeah, don't do that. My third tip is, don't forget about your human needs. You have humans work in the booths, and I've seen companies that forget to give those folks breaks and forget to give them, water and things like that. And, just remember that this stuff is staffed by human beings, and we don't stand up every day, all day for a living. We sit on our butts a lot. And so when you're doing the trade show thing, all of a sudden for 3 or 4 days, you're standing up, you're walking around, you're more active. Understand that, there's, if you're in the marketing side of things, those people have got to be really, really good all the time. And if their feet hurt, and if their voices give out, and if they haven't eaten since breakfast and those kind of things, then they could potentially do something weird, and bad for the brand. Some of those rude people that we talked about in the first segment that I experienced at AES, some of those, rude folks, that could simply be the fact that they were standing up for 2 days and they're just like, I can't do this anymore. There's a limit to how far people can be pushed. So make sure that somebody, and if it falls to marketing, great. If you have a trade show manager, great, but make sure you understand those human needs and make sure you understand that people are doing some different work that maybe they don't do every day. And it's just going to be a little different. And you need those people always to be really sharp on behalf of your brand. My fourth tip is, make sure you walk around and visit your competitors' booths and your potential competitors' booths at trade shows. You don't want to go there as an exhibitor and not get out and see the rest of the show. One trick that, one thing that we do in PR, quite a bit is we try to stay up on whatever's going to be big news at the show. So then when we're trying to engage people in conversation, we can say, well, what have you seen at the show? Have you seen this? Did you know that they have a drone here that, can fly around and, it's piloted by a monkey? Did you know that, Thomas Dolby, finished off his keynote by playing a really cool rendition of She Blinded Me with Science? Those kind of things make it seem like, you have left your booth at some point. And it is important to leave your booth. It's a really good opportunity. Like I said, if you're in marketing, you want to get around and see what everybody else is doing, right? And what better way to see how people are engaging with, how your competitors are engaging with people? They're right there for you to see. All you have to do is just kind of stand there, and just watch what they're doing. Do people understand what they're doing? Are they happy with it? Or what kind of questions are they asking? What are there some new competitors on the horizon that are just exhibiting at this show that are folks that we might want to keep an eye on? Several times during trade shows, we run across something and say, wait a minute, this might be, when we were at the NAMM show one time for a Jam Hub, we realized there was a Chinese company that had completely copied the design for Jam Hub. And we're passing it off as a, and just saying, this is our product. It's good to know that, right? It's good to know, because if you're talking to, distributors and folks in the industry and they say, well, you guys are this expensive, but that other product, and it's like, well, yeah, that product, stole all of our intellectual property, stole this company's intellectual property and manufactured that thing illegally. And, and that sort of thing, right? But if you don't know that, if you haven't gotten out of your booth to kind of walk around, then, how would you know? I strongly encourage everybody to use the opportunity to get out of their own, space, so to speak, physically, and see what else is going on in the industry. Your value as a marketing person, inside a company, at a trade show, you're certainly very, very valuable. But what if you could potentially bring some additional insight that could really, really help the company, because you're one of the only ones that sees it? Sometimes marketing's, we're first in kind of seeing the, the waves that are coming, right? So, again, just tip 4, walk around a bit. I know some people who go the entire show, and it's like you go see them on Sunday, the last day of the show, and they go, no, I haven't gotten out and seen anything. I don't even know what's going on at the show, or that kind of thing. It's like, well, why? Why aren't you out there checking things out? The booth can survive your absence for a short period of time. So make sure you do that. And my fifth and last tip is, don't do the same thing every year. Don't, don't have the same booth design every year. Change it up. If you can, change it up every year. If you have to do it every other year because of cost or what have you, do that. But don't be, so predictable that people are like, well, they've had this booth design and it's been there. There are people at the NAMM show that haven't changed their booth structure, since since like 2 presidents have gone by, and they haven't changed their what they do for their booth. Don't be that company, right? I mean, yeah, it's a cost. Yeah, it's this kind of things. But you want to think through, what is our message this year? Remember we talked about starting with the message? What if our message changed? What if we added a new product line? What if we added, new things? Maybe the existing booth, structure or size or everything doesn't fit into what we're trying to do this time, And, make sure that you are really doing a strong evaluation when you get back from a trade show. Sometimes it's very easy to get back from a trade show. Oh, that was really tough. We're following up with leads. We're doing stuff. We're busy, and we forget to think about next year. So it's a good idea to put just draw a little grid and say, what? Here's what's working, what's not working. Here's something we should start doing, and here's something we should stop, or we should stop doing, and here's something we should start doing. And then just break down those 4 categories and say, one thing that we noticed this year, these are the things that really, really worked. Here's a bunch of things that didn't. And then, is there anything that we learned that maybe we should start doing? Well, yeah, maybe we should start doing X, and maybe we should stop doing, Y, that kind of thing. My point is, change it up. Make sure you do your evaluation at the end of a trade show while it's still fresh in everybody's mind, so that you have that, and then so that you can make it different for everybody every year. Because like I said, your message may be different. So what have we learned today, folks? We learned that if you work in marketing, trade shows are definitely in your job description. And you need to know not how to just exhibit there and be there, but how to really rock those things, how to really own them and be awesome at them. And it's actually easier than a lot of companies make it, companies that have solutions in their name, for example. Use the opportunities that you have and listen more than you talk. You're building those all-important face-to-face relationships. If you do that, your next trade show will be your best trade show. And that's it for me, folks. This has been Scott Robertson of May the Best Brand Win. We'll see you next week with a brand new, fresh show. Have a good one. See ya. Bye-bye. Happy Halloween.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?